南无本师释迦牟尼佛。南无本师释迦牟尼佛。南无本师释迦牟尼佛。We take refuge in our teacher, Sakyamuni Buddha, the Sutra opening Gatha. The Dharma, infinitely profound and subtle, is rarely encountered even in a million kalpas. Now we are able to hear, to study, and to practice. May we fully understand and realize the Tathagata's true meaning. We're going to read the Heart Sutra. Yeah? Okay. The Prajna Paramita Hridaya Sutra. Avalokiteshvara Bodhisattva, when practicing deeply the Prajna Paramita, perceives that all five skandhas are empty and is saved from all suffering and distress. O Shariputra, form does not differ from emptiness. Emptiness does not differ from form. That which is form is emptiness. That which is emptiness, form. The same is true of feelings, perceptions, impulses, consciousness. O Shariputra, all dharmas are marked with emptiness. They do not appear nor disappear, are not tainted nor pure, do not increase or decrease. There is emptiness, no form, no feelings, no perceptions, no impulses, no consciousness, no eyes, no ears, no nose, no tongue, no body, no mind, no color, no sound, no smell, no taste, no touch, no object of mind, no realm of eyes, and no forth until no realm of mind consciousness, no ignorance, and also no extinction of it, and so forth until no old age and death, and also no extinction of them, no suffering, no origination, no stopping, no path, no cognition, also no attainment. With nothing to attain, the Bodhisattva depends on Prajna Paramita, and the mind is no hindrance. Without any hindrance, no fears exist. Far apart from every perverted view, the Bodhisattva dwells in Nirvana. In the three worlds, all Buddhas depend on Prajna Paramita and attain unsurpassed, complete, perfect enlightenment. Therefore, know the Prajna Paramita is the great transcendent mantra, is the great bright mantra, is the utmost mantra, is the supreme mantra, which is able to relieve all suffering and is true, not false. So proclaim the Prajna Paramita mantra. Proclaim the mantra that says, Gade Gade, Paragade, Parasam Gade, Bodhe Swaha. So this is the Heart Sutra. So last week we looked at the title, the Prajna Paramita Hridaya Sutra. We look at the definition of a sutra and how many meanings does the word sutra carries. Today we start to look at this, the roadmap for happiness, peaceful life. So this is actually we're looking at the title, the whole title. What does it? Why would the title actually represents like a roadmap for a peaceful and happy life? As I said last week, if we study this, if we understand thoroughly the title and then actually the first few sentences of the Heart Sutra, you understand it all. That's actually the first paragraph, and the title actually is the essence, the core teaching of the whole Heart Sutra. And as we said in the first, last week was the third one, the second lecture on the Heart Sutra, the substance of Heart Sutra, the whole Heart Sutra is talking about emptiness. So that's why it says in all these other paragraphs, it said no feelings, no perceptions, no eyes, no color. It's actually really, is there no eyes, no ears, no nose, or no color, no sound? No. There are eyes, there are ears, there are nose, but it's just that there's emptiness in all these. So gradually, hopefully, when we go deeper and deeper into the other paragraph, we'll understand what actually the Heart Sutra meant by emptiness. And hopefully, theoretically, we start to understand this emptiness, and hopefully, we start to experience the emptiness in our own existence. And because of that understanding and of that inspiration, of that insight, understanding, or reflection, we start to be able to implement that concept of emptiness in a realistic life and practically into our life. And then at that time, your life will start to change. Definitely, when you start to see, really understand emptiness and start to actually implement emptiness into our life. So this whole um, remember is being translated by Venerable Xuanzang. So the Buddha, when he actually gave teachings to all the sentient beings, as we see from the first talk about Heart Sutra, or its first talk in the beginning of this series of talk on Heart Sutra, there are 5 periods when when the Buddha actually taught. Remember, the first period was the Avatamsaka period, where he only taught for 21 days, right? And then he went on, he went on, and then until the last period, he taught about the Nibbana, or the Sutra of Nibbana. And you would wonder, why would the Buddha actually taught in different periods, and why would he teach um, different sutras? It's actually because all of us, every one of us, has very different state of mind. Some of us have very dull mind. Some of us have sort of like a so-so mind. Some of us have a sharp mind. Some of us have a very, very extremely sharp mind. So when those people with a just a little bit sharper than ordinary mind, we will start to understand. We'll start to understand what the Buddha said: abstain from all unwholesome deeds and practice all wholesome deeds. So this is actually when you can start to actually walk on this path by abstaining from unwholesome deeds and practicing wholesome deeds. You're actually sharper than ordinary people. So you all are sharper than ordinary people because you all start to walk on that path. For those who are really, really sharp mind, the Buddha actually taught about the dependent origination. So I forgot the name of the monk who was walking along, and then Shariputra saw him and he said, "Wow, you look so gracious. Where's your teacher? What did your teachers teach you? Can you teach me?" And Shariputra said, "No, I cannot teach you. I'm not your teacher. I cannot teach you. But at least you have to tell me what your teacher taught you." And Shariputra said, "No, I can't. But why don't you go and look for my teacher?" And the monk was Shariputra. No, Shariputra was actually saw the monk, and Shariputra said, please tell me." He urged this monk to tell him because he knew this monk was following a really wholesome path, have such a serene and gracious demeanor and complexities and complexion. And so eventually this monk said, "Okay, this is what this is what my teacher taught." He said, "This arises, that arises. This passes, that passes." This is such a beautiful teaching. When when this was when this was told to Shariputra, and Shariputra right there already actually entered the stream, attained fruition. And then when he went to see the Buddha, of course he of course he attained higher fruition, higher stage of fruition. So Shariputra has an extremely sharp mind that comes from his past lives of cultivation on the path. Okay, so so the Buddha has different teachings for different type of people. For people who have a lot of desires, let it be sexual desires or material desires. So for those people with a lot of lust, he will teach them the contemplation of, okay, and or the people with a lot of anger, he would teach them metta, loving kindness. So it's a different state of mind. The Buddha was a wonderful teacher, and he knows who needs what. Okay, so that was the wonder and the wisdom of such a wonderful teacher. Okay, so this Heart Sutra, the whole name is called Prajna Paramita Hridaya Sutra. Even though Prajna Paramita actually is one word, but it could be broken down. It could be broken down. And let us look at this Prajna Paramita in broken down terms first. Okay, so the first one is Prajna. Okay, I have three translations there. Of course, the first one you look at it looks very different. That's the Chinese. I hope Tan Sifu can read that. That's the Chinese. Okay. And then the second one is Prajna. That's the Sanskrit. That means the classical language in the old days in India. And Panya, the last one, is Pali terms. That means a spoken language in the old days of India. Okay, so pranya, that means in English term, it means it is normally or casually on commonly known. They would use wisdom, but in Chinese, it's not wisdom. It's Chinese. They don't translate that into wisdom. Chinese actually use the phonetics for so it's pranya. It's actually phonetics of the Sanskrit back in, because with the very vast translated materials, Buddha materials into Chinese, a lot of the Chinese scholars, ancient scholars, and monastics, they think that there is no one Chinese word which can actually explicitly explain the word pranya. So for us, like I have been using dukkha. So you folks know what is dukkha. So what is dukkha? Sufferings. But when you talk about sufferings, people think, oh wow, sufferings, very miserable. But dukkha, not just sufferings. Dukkha could also mean dissatisfactions. Okay? Dissatisfaction is not necessarily suffering, but when one is not happy with the dissatisfaction, one will suffer. Right? So dukkha also means dissatisfactions. So pranya in this term is not being translated in Chinese, not being translated, but some people do use wisdom, the word wisdom, in being translated into Chinese. But I like Bora. I like Bora, so I would stick on to pranya. I would not use wisdom. Okay, I'll stick on to pranya. So you get used to listen to this Sanskrit term or panya. Okay. So the world we call the worldly wisdom. Oh, you will say, oh, he's very wise because he has a lot of alphabets behind his name, after his name, or he seems to be, very well versed, or he seems to be very knowledgeable. But those are the worldly wisdom, and worldly wisdom has many potholes, has a lot of limitations, and it's actually The worldly knowledges are actually not enough, not sufficient enough to understand the whole truth of our own existence, let alone the universe existence. Okay, so when we talk about prajna, it means a very, very unusual wisdom and or understanding or knowledge that is incomparable. So prajna actually serves in a very important position to improve our view on this life. Without this prajna, we can easily fall into two traps. What kind of trap? The first trap is we don't understand ourselves and we don't understand who am I, what am I, what happens to me when I die, and where do I come from. So that's why if you don't understand, if we don't understand, what happened to this physical body? Why would I have this physical body? What does this physical body make up of? And what happens if this physical body start to degrade and get old and eventually completely dissociate? What happens? What happened to us when this physical body is gone? So this is the first trap that we can easily fall into. That's why a lot of people, when they are dying, they are so scared because what happened to me? I remember 2 weeks ago I was asked to to go and visit a patient who have opted for a thing called MAID. I don't know whether you have heard of this. Probably you both of you have heard. It's medically assisted in dying. And so I went to see him, and because he actually requested for a Cantonese speaking monastic. So I went to see him, visit him after I came back from San Francisco. As soon as I landed, I went to see him. And because I knew that he has opted this, um, so I wanted to support him to walk on this path. But when I went to visit him, I saw that he was up and about himself, up and about, and very sound. As yes, I knew that he has gone through a lot of difficulties, physical, and throughout the conversation, he just could not accept the way his body is. He could not accept the way the body is really being so run down, and he has to go through so much pain. For the time that I was there, he was at ease. I did not see much pain. I did not see that he was suffering in pain. So I was hesitant, and as a monastic, I was, I think I have the obligation or I have the responsibility to explain to him my view or our view of opting on this treatment. But from you could say from a it's not a counselor. I'm not a counselor, but from a caregiver point of view, I don't have the right to actually influence him. I would just have to respect him. But this actually put me into such a dilemma. I was in dilemma for 4 days until the time that actually it was last Wednesday. It was last Wednesday, 5:30, and I was preparing for the Chinese talk in at Van Dusen Garden. So there were a few of them there. I said, please come. We all came together. I said, let us sit down 5 minutes. Let us send metta to him and chanted a Heart Sutra to him. Because I called him in the afternoon and his daughter answered. And I said, I'm in town. Um, if I could come and visit him, I would love to. And the daughter said, no, thank you. So, but I heard, there was a lot of trauma there already. So I thought, well, the only thing that I could do is, send him this mental support. So for 4 days, I was like this. I was like this. I was debating whether I should go, whether I should really talk to him, blah 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 blah. But I don't cross my boundary as a caregiver. I don't impose my monastic view on somebody else unless somebody actually proactively come and seek my advice or ask how I feel about that particular issue. But this issue is still hanging in the back of my mind because I'm sure I will bump into many of these cases in the future. For me, I agree with Maid. I do agree with Maid at some stage, but not at that stage. At that stage when he was there. So, so if we don't understand, we could easily fall into this trap. If we do not understand how we come about and what happened after this body is gone, we could be easily fall into this trap. Okay, and also if we do not understand why am I going through this hell right now, if we don't start to see it from this karmic point of view, then it's always we just wanted to stop it, or being so angry with what we are actually experiencing right now. If we do not understand that law of cause and effect, and how are we going to, okay, these all these causes leading to these consequences now, I cannot change now, but I can change my future life. Definitely my future days I can change. How? By how am I going to deal with the present ones? So if we start to understand that, then we will fully utilize every life moment that we have. Right? So that is the first trap. If we do not have this pranya, we could easily fall into that trap. All right. So the second trap is we could easily fall into a attachment mode when we start to attach to anything, material, immaterial, people, situation, things, anything that could bring a lot of dukkha. Dukkha. Uh, our wish, our desire in this lifetime, a lot of time is it could be physiological, it could be mental. I would love my health to be better. I would love that cough would just go down when during the meditation, right? Go down, come, don't cough. The more I want it to stop, the more I will cough. This because my mental part is already reacting to the physical part. Okay, so that the first one is the desire in our wishes, whether it's physical, physiological, or mental. The second one is material. We attach to so much material stuff. They were trying to persuade me to move since last week because my little house smells so bad of mold, and every day they ever would say, Sifu, we can help you to move when you are not home. I said, yeah. First time I said, oh yeah, I'm convinced. Oh, I want to move. Then I go back home. I look at my books. Books here, books there, books there, books there, books here, books here, books here. I said, no, I'm not going to move. And yesterday, Eva said, we can box it for you. Even me and Cock can move all the boxes for you. I said, yeah, you can move the boxes for me. But when I come home, I have to take all the books from my box and then shelve them again, right? So I have to do all those work. She looked at me. She just gave me a big smile. She said, okay, Sifu, whatever you want. So, yes, I would love to move. But when I look at all these attachments I have with books, with books, gosh, I said, even those books in my little house, this whole lifetime I cannot finish them. So many books that I haven't touched. It's just the package is off. Yeah, maybe I flip over one or two pages. I got whole piles of books on my night table. Every night I flip over a few pages. I think all of you, most of you have the same habit like me. You know, that's very good. I think a lot of you have the same habits like me. We, but I think I really need to let go of these books. No, I want to read this. No, I want to read this. I want to keep this. I want to keep this. I think you will start to curse me. If you have, when I die and you need to look after my books, I think you will curse me. Sifu, you see, look, Sifu, I will arise from the from the tomb. I will rise from the tomb again, maybe 4 days later, and say, "It's okay, just run them all." So don't leave too many things, okay? You better get rid of things now when you still have time. And and also, this second trap is a lot of us have a concept that happiness comes from the fulfillment of all these material, physiological, physical, and mental desires. So desires, desires have very strong characteristics. They have at least three. Okay, the first one is possession. We possess so many books. I possess so many books. Okay, and now I start to count my ropes too. That's bad. I have many ropes. You know, 10, at least more than 10. And and you look at it, I said, gosh, I don't have enough hangers for my ropes now. And over overcoat. This is for very cold weather. This is for not so cold weather. This is for warmer weather. That's terrible. I remember when I first became a nun, when I first ordained 26 years ago. I think I only had two sets of ropes and three sets of pajamas and one coat. Where did all these come from? Because I don't I don't give them away. I don't think I can give them away. I don't think you will be able to wear them. If you could, you if you're able, I will save some for you. Yeah, good, good. I was because you're all. I'm considered to be big in the Chinese. So look at all these little sisters. My ropes, they can fit two into my ropes. So I need to save them for you guys. You guys, the Caucasians. Yeah, yeah. Okay. So and then the second characteristics of desire is we always compare. We compare, that's why we have desire. When we start to compare, oh, he has a bigger house, he has a more beautiful wife, or he has a more smart looking husband, or he has, oh, she has such a beautiful coat. When you compare, then you will start to crave. Then you start to fall into this trap of desire. And the third one is competing. Competing. When you compete like the nation, like different countries now, then you start to have all different kind of policies, right? Wanting the other country to to listen to you, to be weaker than you. So then we start to fight, we start to kill. So it causes a lot of, really a lot of dukkha. That's why the Buddha in his one of his teachings, he said, is this Ataka Vaga is collection of meanings sutra. He says here, he said, those who are running after desires are constantly wishing for them. We're constantly wishing for those desires. And if these are not fulfilled, that means if the desires are not fulfilled, they will become so defiled as if they are being hit by an arrow. I'll put down the Chinese also because these for some of the Chinese speakers who are streamlining, live streaming, so that they will actually pick up the Chinese verses too. Because I translated them from Chinese. So will become so defiled as if they are being hit by an arrow. Remember the arrow. The first thought is a lot of time is inevitable. The first arrow that actually we keep hitting ourselves with is the desire of not become old, the desire of not become sick, the desire of not dying. And when the desire is not being fulfilled, we get old, we get sick, and we're going to die. And then we start to react, and we start to hit ourselves with the second arrow, the second dart. Remember the story of the dart? So the Buddha in this sutra, he said, if we need to be free from this pain of attachment to the desires, we need really to have the prajna. Because when only with prajna, then we will start to understand the real truth of this real world, and of this, and on also this is also a world. This is only a microcosm, right? A mini world when compared to the external bigger universe. This is a mini world. And when we start to understand the real truth pertaining to the existence of this mini world, then when we start to understand, start to accept it, and start to really put that into our life, then we will finally reach a state where we can be ultimately free, and be happy and be peaceful. And then at that time, then we can actually travel from this bank of dukkha, cross the river to the other bank of panya, of nibbana. Okay, so this is this is what the Buddha actually said, the importance of panya. So there are three types of panyas that you already knew. Hopefully you still remember. So the sutta mayapana, that means the things that you read, the things that you hear, the teachings that you read, the teachings that you hear. And as you remember, in the old days, all the teachings are passed down orally, right? So sutta mayapana is the knowledge or wisdom that you obtain from listening to others, and or from being instructed by others about impermanence, about ever changing, we call anicca, or about sufferings, dukkha, and about emptiness, anatta. So it can be also developed by reading, okay? And this type of prajna definitely depends on external resources, right? You depend on a teacher, you depend on books, you depend on a good ear. Somebody has to do the audio, everything, okay? So it has to depend on an external source. So even though, however fluent we are, however good we are with Sutta Mayapanya, we may be inspired to keep walking on the path of Dhamma, but just with Sutta Mayapanya, we will never be able to attain liberation, total liberation. So bear in mind, don't just read, don't just keep your books. Practice what your books teaches you. Okay. So, and then the second is the Chinta Mayapana. That means the reflection. Um, Chinta Mayapana need a very strong foundation, a strong foundation based on morality. Okay. Uh, of course, this Chinta Mayapana entails one's own thinking, a lot of thinking, a lot of interpretation, a lot of understanding on these concepts of impermanence, and also suffering as dukkha, and also anatta. So this is a process of intellectually analyzing, okay, something, and to see whether it is logical, whether it is rational, and whether it is sensible. Gone through such a process, one can then accept this teaching intellectually. So One may become knowledgeable about the theory of the Dharma, and one may be able to explain it to others. One may be even able to help others to actually grow in this aspect of understanding of anicca and dukkha and anatta. But still, one is not liberated. Okay, even with Chintamayapanya. So with these two panya or panya, somebody can start off with Chintamayapanya without really hearing the teachings of the Dhamma. They just think it's logical, right? Cause and effect, logical. Before you actually encounter the Buddha's teaching, with you look at this world, you know, well, this is changing, right? This is logical. Like, you know, death is logical. It happens, and cause and effect is logical. So you may start from this Chintamayapanya, and then when you encounter the sutta, and the sutta actually verify your own experience, right? Or you start with sutta, Mayapanya, and then you go into Chinta. You start to interpret it more, you start to experience it more, okay? So, but remember, these two, the Buddha said, it doesn't lead you to complete total liberations. Only the third one is called Bhavana Mayapanya. That means the liberation results only from this. What this bhavana means? Bhavana means you actually practice, cultivate, and develop in this prajna so strong, and the mind becomes so strong, so sharp, so stable, so balanced, and it is constantly dwelling in deep samadhi and awareness. Huh? Okay, it will be wonderful. Well, we will still quite a way. Yeah. So that in people like this, these practitioners, they will be able to see a lot of truth through their samadhi, through the focused mind. Or you can say that they are actually constantly in this state of jhana, samadhi. And the jhana can actually last for weeks. And I'm going to share with you a vivid, a true example. Okay. So with this bhavana mayapanya, it's really us, we cannot comprehend what kind of state of mind that is until we get there. Okay. So that I want to share with you this wonderful practitioner, wonderful renowned master, who is my grandmaster. Okay. And some of you, your great grandmaster. Okay, so Master Xu Yun, if anybody know mathematics, 1959 minus 1839 is equals to 120. So he passed away in 1959. He was 120 years old. Yeah, you see, wow. When he was 58, he actually fell into a river, and he drifted along the river for I can't remember 1 day or 2 days, and then he was picked up by a fisherman. And he was going to travel to Gaominsi in China for meditation retreat. So because he was already very weak, I don't know. I told you his story, his birth before. No, no, he was not inside out. He was born in a sack. Remember? His mom gave birth to like a lump, a sack, nothing. And His mother was, I think, 47. They did not have any children, and they they were very fervent Buddhists, and they bow, they prostrated, and they practice, and they just wish that they have, you know, a child. And they had a dream. They had a dream that they had a child, and then the mother conceived, and then he was born in a sack. And the mother was so upset because they wanted a child so badly. And when she saw this sack, she died. I don't think it was just that, but because I think he was born without any proper in the old days, no proper gynecological procedures, right? So probably she lost some too much blood, and not properly, and then also in great shock. And a day later, an old man walked by his father's house. And in Chinese tradition, when somebody passed away in Chinese tradition, we will hang white lanterns outside the house in the old days. Even when we were little, we saw white lanterns, and we would just be so scared. We walk away from the apartment blocks, right? Remember? So the so the old man walked by and saw this white lantern and knock on the door and asked them, "Father, what happened? Who died?" And then the father said, "My wife died yesterday, giving birth." And he said, "So where's the child?" He said he gave birth. She gave birth to a lump of thing. And the old man said, "Give me a pair of scissors." The old man the cut it up, cut up the sack, and there was great grandmaster inside that sack. It was the placenta, I think. So he was in the placenta for one day. So he never saw his mom, never. But there's so many stories about him, but let's don't go to that story, okay? So he was drowned, almost died, and he got picked up. And then when he went to Gaomin's the temple, Gaomin temple, he was passing out blood. He was passing out sperm, and but he insisted that he would go into the meditation hall and meditate for 20, days in and days out. And the monk who was responsible to look after the meditation hall said that he was not allowed because he was too sick, but he wouldn't listen. So he was given we in the Chinese monastery, we have a board, a piece of wood. We can show you later on. When you don't listen, you get hit. If you have seen the Korean or the Japanese chant, they go around with a board. And if you fall asleep, you got hit. Or if you're almost enlightened, you got hit too. Okay? So to give you just a bit of push. So he refused. So he got hit by the board, but he still went back into the meditation. And one night, during his meditation, he saw complete brightness, and he saw one of the monk was peeing in the washroom. Washrooms are far away, um, and then the next day, in a Chinese traditional meditation retreat in the evening, they will have tea. People would come into the meditation hall to serve you tea. You don't go out the meditation hall unless going for lunch. They sleep there, they eat there, they pee there. They do everything in that little area. So they have tea. So we have Chinese cups. So you hold the cups, and the attendant monk will come and give you tea, and then keep your bun in the evening. That day, he was holding the cup, and the attendant pouring the tea, and the tea was too hot. It poured onto his hand. It burned him. He broke. He dropped the cup. And at that time, he became enlightened, just like that. And he it's just a wonderful story. And he actually said this in his in his um in his enlightenment. He said a cup fell. I'm sorry, the translation is not perfect. It's really difficult to translate because I'm not that that state, okay? About so I tried to translate the meaning of it. He said a cup fell to the ground because he was holding it and they're pouring the tea over it, burned his hand, he just fell. A cup fell to the ground with a sound clearly heard. It's a blah, 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 like this. So the sound just traveled into his ears. And the space was so pulverized. That means the whole universe is broken, completely broken. That space is completely broken. The mad mind came to a stop. Like our mad mind came to a stop. Just hush, quiet, completely quiet. When the hand was burned, the cup fell and shattered. It is hard to talk when family breaks up or someone dies. That means to let go of this. It's so difficult to talk about this. It's because it's so difficult to comprehend and it's so difficult to try to console people when somebody dies. Spring comes with fragrant flowers exuberating everywhere. In the Chinese, it's when spring comes, flowers, the flower blooms, and you can smell the fragrance everywhere. So I'm not trying to be more classical. So I'm trying to give you the meaning of of this verse here, this one here. So when spring comes, flowers blooms, all these blossoms with fragrance everywhere. And he said, the last verse is so most beautiful. 山河大地是如來 the whole universe, including the mountains, the river, and the earth, actually are the Tathagatas. That means it's the Buddhahood. You can see the Buddha everywhere. In the mountains, in the river, in the earth. Actually, it depicts the Buddha nature is everywhere. It tells us Buddha nature is everywhere. In the universe, in the mountains, in the earth, in us, everywhere. Everywhere you can understand the teachings of the Tathagata, of the Buddha. Tathagata is one name of the Buddha. Buddha has how many names? How many names? 10. That's good, Gary. Not 9, 10. 10 names. You have to revise that, okay? Tathagata, that means coming and going. Oh, so so it's the Chinese was written by him. When it's being translated into English, you might not be able to grasp the total meaning, but I think the best verse, the best phrase to grasp is the mad mind came to a stop, like completely hush. The whole world is so quiet and so clear and so vivid. But yet you understand this existence of this world is all conditioned. So where is you? Where are you? Who are you? What are you? Yeah, it's easy to say. Easy to say. Yeah, so that's why he said, looking, the mad mind came to a stop. And the last one is mountain, rivers, and the great earth at the Tathagata. So everywhere you can see the teachings of the Buddha flowing. Okay, so that is the great teachings from. I will share more poems later on, all through the whole exposition of the Heart Sutra, because those poems are really just teach so well. Okay, so that's why the prajna is very important. In the first sense, it allows us to understand. It allows us to understand, and understanding the connection, the truth to these connections, um, uh, the connections, the existence of the connections, and the passing of the connections, and seeing through the truth, we start to really come out, come out from our own dark mind and start with brightness, because we start to see the truth. And so it's just like the sun coming down, the sun rays coming down, piercing through the clouds, and it brings brightness. And you, all the dark corners, you can see what are in the dark corners. Okay, so when when we are able to see brightness, darkness is completely gone. The defilements are so visibly um, vivid, and we will be able to see, hey, this is unwholesome, this is, I really need to eradicate that, and this is polluted, I really need to purify that. So you start to, if you keep on walking on that path, you start to purify, you become purer and purer by understanding. We need to start to detach, because we know everything is conditioned. And when we start to detach, or when we start to understand more, we start to let go. And we won't, when we start to let go, we will start to become more humble. Venerable Xingyun has taught before. He taught to his students. He said, you all have to be very humble. When somebody is not humble, it's just like a piece of wood. There are many nails there. When somebody is not humble, that means you are the nail, the only nail that's been sticking out. When somebody needs to hit a nail, you'll be the one that got hit, because you want to stand out. You want to be recognized. You want people to address you. So you are the first nail being popped out. So you will be the first one being nailed down. So be humble. Okay. When you are humble, you will actually be easier to take a step back and just watch. You won't just be so fast, boom, verbally, physically, and mentally. You take a step back. It doesn't mean that you're dumb. If you're too fast, that means you're dumb. Because when you're too fast, especially verbally, that means your mind has such a strong habit that can push your physical and your verbal to come so fast into actions. So try. It's not easy, but it's try. So when we are able to purify ourselves, that's right here, we start to detach more, and we start to actually be distant more from our pollutants. Uh, because when we start to become purer and purer, as I said, we become more and more humble. When we become more and more humble, we start to realize more that we are really not there yet. We are not perfect. And when we start to realize that we are not perfect, we don't blame others so easily. And we won't pick on others so easily. Okay? Because we know that we still have a lot of room for improvement. Oh, haven't gone? 5 more minutes. Okay. Okay. Let us finish this one. So with prajna, if if we are really wise, if we are really developed, And if we start to apply this prajna into our life, what will it bring to this life? First is we will start to actually reestablish the meaning of our life. A lot of times people say, especially when I go and visit people who are dying, end of life, they say, there is no meaning of life. I did not find any meaning of my life now and in the past, because I have no achievement and I'm not a big person, I'm not famous, I'm not wealthy, and all that. So a lot of people actually establish their meaning of life on the material achievement. No, no. So when we start to become wiser and wiser, start to have more prana, we will start to jiggle around and we will start to find the meaning of life. Hey, no, no, no. This material path, no. I don't think this will carry much meaning of my life. Yes, enough is okay. I will spend more time in this on this path. Starts to search more on this path. Okay. And also the second thing is we will start to liberate ourselves from the shackles of our own desires. It's not that, as I said, it's not that we become completely numb or dumb and no feelings, but we start to see life from a very different point of view. We will start to learn to let go of desires that are dragging us down or backward. And also, we will stop running blindly to actually to crave for those sensual desires, which are so impermanent and so changing. Okay, and also we will stop fighting, comparing, competing, and possessing. When we are wiser, we will stop all those, and you will be so happy with just very little things. My grandmaster or your great grandmaster, I heard that I think he had only washed himself 3 times in his life: when he was born, when he got ordained, and when he died. That's what I heard. I don't know whether it was true, but he never smelled. He wasn't smelly. And I remember when my sifu actually was here, right in this garage, or right in this meditation hall now. He stayed here for 3 months. He was not well at that time. He told us the time that he spent with our grandmaster or your great grandmaster. He never saw his eyeballs. He never know the color of his eyeballs because he was always downcast, the eyes downcast, constantly in deep samadhi. And you think that people in deep samadhi do not work? No. A part of the mind is in deep samadhi. The other part of the mind is go about the daily chores. So it's different than what we comprehend of a deep jhana is. Yo, you sit there, you are in jhana and you don't move. You're like a piece of rock, sit there for 9 months, like the Bodhidharma. No, no. So my sifu said, you never know what's the color of the eyeballs of your grandmaster. Never see them. It's always like that, always. He walk, he talk, he teaches, he meditates, always like that. I look through hundreds of his pictures, never see his eyeballs. So we are still very far away. so so be patient, okay, with yourself. So remember, in order to clear ourselves from all these entanglements, all these shackles, we really need to develop this prajna. So that's why the Heart Sutra is so precious in that. And the teachings of the Buddha is so precious in that. Okay? So the whole hour is just on this word, prajna. You can see how long this whole sutra will take, okay? All right. So That's it for the night, and we will dedicate our merits. So we bring our attention back to this body, experiencing the changing nature of our own physical existence, moment to moment. And we allow a good thought to arise on our mind for all the benefits that I gathered tonight. May I share with all beings, human, non human, visible, invisible, big or small, far or near. May they be free of enmity. May they be free of miseries. May they start to live in a world with brightness, warmth, experience compassionate love, and be peaceful and be happy. May we wish more and more beings will encounter the words of the Buddha, study them, practice them, and liberate themselves from their own entanglements, from their own sufferings, and be truly and ultimately free and happy. Okay, good night.